So now we're going to be having people ask questions, and then they're going to try and supply answers.
Actually, I think I'm about to have to go run and get my car checked out.
You're going to go get something at Dell?
Check my car. My
You're
car.
going to check your car?
Yeah.
You're going to go do that now?
Yeah, I didn't plan on it.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be left with me.
It's going to be me and Benjamin. Cool.
Ben.
Alright, bye guys.
Benjamin. Bye.
Yep.
Hey Ben.
And,
now you
right,
can
so now
ask
we
all your
could,
stuff about Socionics.
I won't say anything too weird. Right, so I'm gonna put mine. So are we recording at the moment?
Yeah, we're being broadcast right now.
Right, I can't hear you. I'll stick it up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it cut out for a moment. So what were you going to talk about first?
No, I was going to be answering questions. It was going to be an FAQ. What happened to my video?
Right. Have you already got them, or are you dependent on people turning up to ask you questions?
This time, and that's what I do. I decided not to make a plan. That people come and ask questions. See what happens.
Right. So if we're recording now, so could you talk about the abstracted element definitions?
Abstracted element definitions. Well,
Yeah.
that's basically a means of understanding the information metabolism elements. There's the main ways they did it were using the static and dynamic categories of a dichotomy, the internal and external dichotomy, and hang on. Oh yes, and also the idea of relations and objects, which is basically just extroversion, introversion of dichotomy. So those three dichotomies together. Oh, there's also another one, but they don't actually use it in the definitions, called abstract and close and removed, I think it was, which was it's pretty much similar to internal and external. Yeah. So what do they combine internal and external dichotomy, static, dynamic, extroverted, and introverted, and the combination of these lead to the 8 information elements. For instance, do you know about static and dynamic information elements?
A little bit. Is static snapshots?
Yeah. Well, snapshots. Yes. Basically, it depends. If you are an extroverted type, using static, it's like lots of snapshots. If you're introverted, it's usually one single system that stays pretty still. However, if you decide to then change that system, the entire thing then must be repeated.
I've got some definitions here on the Wikipedia article on Socionics, and it seems that the extroverted abstracted definitions are a lot easier to understand. So, for instance, TE, it says external dynamics of objects, and that's quite easy to understand because it's almost like physics and movement and things.
Okay, it's an extroverted, and so it's of objects. It's dynamic, and it's external. That's the things, the factual actions going on around you.
Yeah, so that's
FE, on the other hand, extroverted ethics, is often described as the internal dynamics of objects, and that's the idea that it's not about what actually going on around us, like what all the processes and what all the facts and information. Instead, it's what's going on inside the heads of these people. How are they feeling? So yes, basically, yeah.
Yes, again, all the extroverted ones are relatively easy to understand. But say, so you're talking about TE and then FE. If you then look at TI, then you've got external statics of fields.
Fields, yes. Now,
is that how concepts relate? Is that how concepts relate to each other?
Yes. Fields are basically the relations, the frameworks between things. So the external statics of fields, introverted logic, is basically also the stuff going on outside, but it's static. So it's unchanging, and it's of a field, so it's connecting things together. While extroverted dynamics of objects, TE, is basically yes, the things themselves, actual facts and information going on. When it comes to introverted information element, it's about the relationship between one thing and another. For instance, if you look at introverted logic, it functions this way. The person makes what a statement A and statement B. Introverted logic tells us these two statements are consistent, whether they can both be true at the same time. In which case, it's a relationship between the two. That's what the introverted logic usually looks at. Extroverted logic looks at things.
Hi. Chat's frozen. I've forgotten your name, but were you in the first two Hangouts? Just a shorter haircut, I can't remember. Oh yes, the guitars, yes.
Yeah, he was. Sorry.
Can Jack hear us?
I can't hear Matthew at all.
So yes, you were talking about relations between things. So it's frequently said on MBTI videos that an introverted sensing, say with a smell, it will remind them of something else. And when you're talking about introverted things like relations.
Yeah, sensing, as opposed to sensing, is one person's environment rather than the physical environment itself.
Oh dear. So what's your name in the blue t-shirt? I don't want to call you blue shirts all evening. If you're typing a message, you can't see it.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Now you
Okay,
try to talk.
Yeah. You can call me Matt.
Oh, hi. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
So do you know about the abstracted definitions of the elements?
Abstracted definitions? Not really.
Yeah, because I've got this. I've just printed off the Wikipedia
sensing to figure that kind of stuff out. Anybody can do that. I think anybody has to
Yeah.
think creatively and not
Yeah,
be tied down.
I mean, talking of trends in the stock market, it's like technical patterns.
Yeah.
When they talk about a head and shoulders market or an upside down head and shoulders.
So that's how it works. I didn't know you could actually re-enter a conversation when you dropped out of it. That's great. I thought the Hangout terminated when I lost connection. Thank goodness. I think it's a disaster. What's going on? No.
Hey, nice haircut.
Thank you. Nice haircut yourself.
Yeah, I lost some hair too.
Yeah.
So all of the introverted, abstracted elements are all fields.
Yes. They are all fields. Exactly. They are of fields. The idea being its relation. Introverted sensing user. It's their relation to a physical environment. That's why they're so body conscious. So much. How do I feel about the heat, about the cold, about whether I'm hungry or not? That's because it's a relation, a feel, rather than the object itself. That's why extrovert sensation will be more like, what can I conquer in my environment? It's not about my relation to it. It's about the environment itself and me navigating it.
Have you seen the videos by EJR&D?
Yeah, I haven't seen him properly. I need to see him properly because I was meant to be typing him for my friend James, actually.
Well, he's
You know Tree Bob? You know Tree Bob?
no, I know a little bit about EJR&D. I know he went to the Naval Academy. He knows game theory. I think they learned that in the Naval Academy because of its use in military strategy. And he's a libertarian like me. He's heavily TI.
Oh yeah, R&D, I know him.
Yeah, no, quite a few people know EJR&D. I was asked by Tree Bob, if you know who Tree Bob is, to type him. Yes.
Well, he says it's ESTP TI. He mentions enneagrams a lot.
Yeah, the people often do.
No,
people still do an enneagram.
I guess I can concur with being ESTP. He has juggled with the possibility of LIE before, but I'm pretty sure he expresses an EP temperament because according to your definition, Jack, or what you told me, his motives seem to be about what he wants for himself.
Yeah, which is extroverted irrational. Yeah.
And I mean, you call it selfish and all, but pretty clear. I mean, I'm not totally straight out with the definition myself, but I get the basic idea.
Yeah, he's got very strong extroverted sensor. He's
got
he's had problems.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't say that. I can't remember what he told me and what he said on video.
Oh, just say whatever you want. I mean, it's only going to be recorded forever for everyone to see. I mean, yeah.
Trying to remember now what he said on video and what he didn't tell me.
Who, me or Jack?
No, EJR&D.
Because
there's things he's told me in private.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to say those things.
I see. That makes sense. Yes, don't mention.
But yeah, he's been in the military. He does martial arts, and he's a gymnast.
So very, very physically oriented, clearly.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about sensing the willpower of people and working out the hierarchy in a room.
Exactly, extrovert sensation. Of course, there is the small possibility that he may know socionics and knows how to describe a type he thinks he is, rather than one he actually necessarily is.
Oh yes, he knows a lot about.
If you know socionics, you can look like other types they want to be because when you're asked about yourself, you just describe some other type.
Yeah, he says he's done that.
Yeah. It's occasionally like with the model, you can become the type you want because you looked at the description and you strive to be like that description.
Have you seen his duality groups on Facebook?
Did he create them?
Yeah, he created the one for Esselie and
IEI. That's most popular one I've heard. That's got the most members.
And
ILI
and SEE and LII and ESE.
I'm on the ILE and SEI one, and there's hardly anyone on it.
Oh, I forgot that he created all of them for 8 boots. I think.
There are 8 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand why there's so few people on them, because I haven't been striving to get more people on them. Mostly because I know hardly any SEIs online, like very, very few. I met my first female one like a few days ago, and I've been teaching her socionics privately. And I don't want to invite any more ILEs, because that dramatically increases the competition.
Like, what is it, a singles bar?
I don't know. Well, that seems to be the idea. If you basically have a group specifically for dyads, it really is just it becomes a dating oriented thing.
I mean, try finding an ESFJ on YouTube. It's hard to find.
I'm sure there are a few. You need to know where to look.
Maybe they don't know they're ESFJs.
I mean, the ESFJs are out there. They're just ESCs are out there. They're just they're doing something maybe more productive with their lives.
I think they yes, because they're serving others.
Actually, the choreographer in my show is an ESC. In
MBTI, the way they portray ESFJs is very insulting.
In what, in MBTI? The way they portray most sensor types in MBTI is insulting. And it's a terrible thing. Basically, if you talk to any intuitor in MBTI, somebody who's doing MBTI, they're probably might not even be an intuitor. They decide they're intuitor because they don't want to be a second-class citizen in MBTI. But the thing they tend to talk about more than anything else is how stupid sensors are. It's a major point of conversation for them.
That's why I like looking at EJR&D, watching his video, because he's a sensor.
And he's also clever. Exactly.
Yeah, and so many things that are attributed to intuition, he comes out with in TI. And I was mentioning to Max that there's an article on Wikisocion about the biases in Socionics.
Yeah.
And it mentioned the lady who came up with it. I think she's called Anushra. She attributed...
Oh, the Altra?
Yeah.
Altra Augusta?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the founder of Socionics.
That she attributed too many things to NE because she was ENTP. Maybe some things that should have been in the TI category.
No. Maybe that would be confusing, seeing as she would be using both because she's an ILE.
Yeah, because we need to explain how sensors can be smart.
Can be smart. Oh, the sensors are smart because they know how to turn their immediate advantage to a situation, especially the extrovert sensation. If you're introvert sensation, you know how to enjoy life, etc. You know how to derive pleasure from things around you, which an intuitor can't. There are different kinds of intelligence. Also,
about 7. There's about 7
Oh.
different kinds.
Oh yeah, I'd say that there's loads of different kinds. If you go really far, with maybe categories, of course, for what they may be, but there's so many different kinds.
I think there's musical, logical, mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, visuospatial. One weird one called kinesthetic.
Yeah.
Which I think is what surgeons have.
Movement.
Yeah, skill, yeah. And linguistic. There's about 7 main ones.
Linguistic.
And I found interesting is those 7 times match up with the elements. In
about
terms
the
of
eighth one?
The 7 what?
no, because the elements sort of have to represent aspects of humanity. So, for instance, it even represents aggression and labels that SE. Whereas the 7 kinds of intelligence, they obviously that's trying to model the whole of intelligence,
Mm.
and so both the elements and the 7 kinds of intelligence are trying to model the same thing, and so there's a little bit of overlap. So
Possibly, but remember there are 7 kinds of intelligence and 8 information metabolism elements. But yeah, I know where you're coming from. It's the idea if you see your socionics type as listing your strengths and weaknesses as well as developments, then one could say that you have different kinds of intelligence based on what information elements you have in your ego block. So, but I don't know. I still don't think it's quite an overlap because I found other ILEs who have a different kind of intelligence for certain things. They're not quite as strong in the area that I am, for instance. And I'm not as strong in the area that they are in.
So if you think about interpersonal intelligence, and then you think of FE, and if you think of intra, and then think of FI, and maybe and logical mathematical would be TE and TI. So there's a slight overlap in some of them.
Yeah, there are also intrapersonal. What would intrapersonal be? I thought that's like willpower, like disciplining yourself to do things and achieve things, and knowing where you're going.
And SE and TE might be that kinesthetic intelligence.
Why would TE be kinesthetic?
Well, if it's with processors and objects and manipulating objects.
Yeah, but it's manipulating processes, not actually the objects itself. They're not actually. It's not about physically moving around. It's about understanding how to get things to work properly.
Mm.
It's a mechanical intelligence, making the mechanism work.
So SC and SI might be more kinesthetic type of intelligence?
Is that musical?
What?
Because generally SI is associated with artistic talents.
Aesthetic. Yeah, but that wouldn't automatically make it musical because it's more than just the ear. It's the eye, it's the nose, it's the tongue. I mean, there's so much to the aesthetic of integrated sensing. It's all
You're gonna find so many types doing things musically related, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think any type is limited. There's no limitation to what type can do something musically.
Yes, and they all have
maybe any intelligence, really. I bet you there's some EIIs that are masters at math.
Yeah. Have you heard
literature and everything else, but they're awesome at math.
Have you heard there's an overlap between musical intelligence and mathematical intelligence?
Yes, and that's a very interesting concept. The idea that music is repeated patterns of certain notes. There is definitely a mathematical quality to it, and that would be the approach of a logician to music. While the ethical side is more likely to be the one that's expressing their angst, for instance. I know loads of IEIs who do music. Like most music, quite a few musical directors I've had have been IEIs, people who have a Calvin in the music department at King's College London. I haven't done that for Gilbert Sullivan. A lot of them are also IEIs. So that seems to be a very, very common type in music. Now,
that I've noticed that there are a lot of people. There are actually a lot of people I've met. I can think of a couple of examples of people that have, gotten to this really technical field of some sort. Yeah. 2 of them actually I know were computer science majors. Really into programming and everything, but they had a side interest of playing music. And actually, these 2 people I knew were really into piano. Like, they played at recitals and everything. So there was so you're right when you mentioned that there's sort of an overlap between music and the logical mathematical side. I see it myself.
I think someone called Bach is often quoted as being very mathematical music. Have you heard of that?
Well, when you study music theory, I mean, see, the thing is, classical music. I mean, you can call me ignorant if you want, but I've noticed that a lot of the songs are very predictable in a way, and it doesn't necessarily destroy their value. It's just that they're structured so well, and even the names of the songs will tell you what what note, what note the song is in, and whether it's a major or minor song, and
a symphony is a series of repetitions on a theme with slight alterations. That's basically how a symphony is. Especially each movement is specifically the repetition of instruments on the theme. When you look to more modern music, they got that general idea, but they can go almost anywhere. Although I do find actually more exact repetition in modern day music than classical music. Classical music never repeats exactly. They always have small changes, like if it's in the rhythm and what instruments playing, etc. That keeps that novelty going. But they do have a general theme that is repeated. It's a motif of each movement. So, but it's very.
Again, my ignorance is very blissful. My ignorance is very blissful.
Yeah.
I say, classical music's all the same.
What do you think of
If I told
Tchaikovsky?
that to an enthusiast, I get slapped. Sorry?
What do you think of Tchaikovsky?
I haven't heard very much of Tchaikovsky. My mom has a book of some of his stuff, and I think she's attempted to play some of his pieces. I'd have to hear some of it again. From what I remember, I remember his pieces that were very interesting. And I know at the time when he shared his pieces with the public was outraged because it was so different. That's what I remember from Tchaikovsky.
It seems to be very moving music, and there are these theories that he was gay and he was having an inner struggle.
Interestingly, I was Tchaikovsky was one of my more recent usernames on Personality Cafe. It got banned rather recently, but yeah, I was one of my newer characters was Julian. What's his name? Canard, which is French for swan. The idea that his username was Tchaikovsky, linked through Swan Lake. But yeah, it's such a lovely concept, and it lasted for such a short time. He's found out pretty quickly and banned like all the others.
Are you always banned for the same reason?
Oh, well now I am, because now my reason is multiple accounts.
Right.
Oh, okay. Are they tracking your IP or something?
You could get a
Yeah,
proxy.
that's what I do. I use a proxy.
Oh.
But the problem is, it's pretty obvious when it's me posting, because I'm the one who's actually is the only person actually making sense. So as soon as someone on basically here's how it works. It used to be Estrabix, who was like watching the Socionics form like a hawk, looking for this particular phenomenon, which is where someone, a recently created account, goes on Socionics and starts talking sense. As soon as that happens, they have to ban him, because it's clearly me. So no one in Socionics is allowed to talk sense. Yeah, on Personality Cafe.
You're gonna have to defy that pattern. You're gonna have to post in some other forums. You're gonna have to act.
Oh, no, that's what I did. I did that for one of my older accounts called Liebling. A character called David Bloom from Germany, who suspiciously had the face of my friend Luke. So yeah, I was as him, and I started off as an ENFJ, posting some deliberately over sappy comments in the ENFJ section. And my first thread was, "I have so much love to give to all of you." So, just playing those stereotypes. The thing is, the more you play to these MBTI stereotypes, the more people will believe you are that type. Because that's just love the stupidity that exists there. You can't get. They'll always think you're being sincere because they imagine people that type to always act that stereotypically. But yeah, so I did that for a while, and no one suspected a thing until I accidentally logged in with my own IP one day.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was tired. It was like 2 a.m. for me. Like, what did I just do? Let's hope they didn't notice. No, they noticed and they banned me the next morning. And was going
Jack,
so well.
Could I ask about the NI polar in the ESE?
The NIPOLR, positive resistance. Yeah, that's to do with time. LSEs and ESEs have a chronic lack of awareness of time. As a result, they because they're rational types and they want to be seen as, not have these they seem as if they got their head screwed on. They have to check the time always. An LSE must always have a watch. If they do not have a watch, God help them. But they will not they will never let the watch leave their wrist. That's almost sinful. The idea is that they need to pay attention to the details, to the clock, to the hand ticking across the face of that clock, because otherwise they will lose track of where they are in the day.
Is it?
They will.
Is it because NI is in opposition with SI, and the SI suppresses NI?
Exactly. NI and SI cannot inhabit the same block.
I think Jung mentions that.
Yeah, he does. It's the idea that if two yes, basically you can only have something with the opposite alertness and rationality in the same block. It has to be that. That's the only way it can work. As a result, SI will be pushed down if you have NI, or vice versa.
So I guess in the case of the IEE, that has a TI polar. So what exactly is suppressing that? Is it the FI?
Yeah.
So how exactly is FI suppressing TI?
Because think about it, either you are creatively using your sentiments, how you feel towards things, how other people are feeling towards things, the internal statics of fields, or you are using the external statics of fields, which is basically the relationships between concepts, not concepts like statements, so whether one thing is consistent with another thing. Now, either you can focus on the logical consistency, the laws, the logic, the system, or you can focus on the interpersonal connections. If you can't focus on both at once, they're both two different ways of judging information internally. Do you know what I mean? So often you'll find that.
Maybe if you flip the two around. Now, why don't you flip the two around? Talk about yourself. How does your TI suppress FI?
It's a good example. So, say I tend to use interpretive logic almost all the time. So, when I enter a debate, I tend to stick to logical consistency. It's very difficult for me to start talking about how I feel on a matter, what my personal opinion is in terms of whether I think it's good, whether I think it's bad, etc. It doesn't seem to compute with me. I'm trying to have a debate, trying to talk to someone. It's something which completely has to be kicked out for my introverted logic to work. How can I stay logical if I'm talking about my feelings? They're opposites. One is the subjective, one's the objective.
Interesting. Whenever I've gotten into debates, I would always come in with, like a pretty good opinion on how something should be. And of course, when I hear more information, then I might change or something. To me, I always saw a debate as something to change other people's opinions. Like, people disagreeing with each other, they have to come to some kind of agreement, or one has to win over the other. And I know, and
no, I'm very much the same. I'm very much the same.
Sorry?
On that aspect, I'm the same. On that aspect, I'm the same. It's about correcting something which has gone wrong. So somewhere there's a problem that needs to be fixed, and then debate to fix that problem. But it's never a case of how I feel towards the situation. It's just that something's incorrect. It needs to be fixed. That's the logical thing to do. And so I never approach the debate with my emotions. I never approach the debate with how I feel that something is good or bad. Even in the political debate, I'll still approach things from a logical point of view, which can majorly piss off people who are using introverted ethics.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Happened the other day, actually. Got banned from type from it.
Well, I've come to the realization that, it's pretty darn a good idea to use logic in any debate, because if you just take anything from an ethical standpoint, like, like hurting animals is bad, you're gonna get your butt kicked.
No, exactly. I mean, I never really lose debates in mine. It's just that I just carry on and infuriate people. I don't actually get my ass handed to me in the logical way.
Have you read Aristotle's Rhetoric?
No.
They have a principle of persuasion where if you want to persuade someone, you show how what you want to convince them of follows on from what they already believe in. So, for instance,
so in other words, in other words, you actually both are actually in agreement, and you only falsely believe you're in disagreement.
Well, it's more you believe in this, therefore you should believe in that. So, for instance, Martin Luther King would extrapolate from the Constitution and Christianity and say, because you respect the Constitution, because you're Christian, therefore, and then all the links towards what he wants them to believe in. And he says, well, if you want to be consistent, then you have to believe this as well.
That would be an introverted logic use in an argument. No, I do that. I often do something similar. If I'm arguing something, that if you call yourself that, and those are the rules and tenets of that, then this behaviour logically follows. If not, then I'll call on double standards.
Have you heard of the enthymeme?
Enthymeme?
Yeah, it's rhetorical syllogism.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I have.
So it's just
I've never had it.
where the premises are probable rather than necessary.
So, plausible rather than necessary?
Well, in the rhetoric it just says probable rather than...
Probable.
Yeah,
Okay.
rather than necessary. So, for instance, the political thing, the premises are not 100% true, but they are for the most part.
Yeah. Well, if they were actually true, then if the argument were valid, it would be perfect. So yeah, you gotta be sure of the premises. But yeah, where's Matthew gone?
I think he just popped out. I don't know.
Matthew, where you go, Matthew?
So,
Yeah.
are you going to talk about the dimensionality of the functions?
In terms of Bukalov, probably I'm not in a position to discuss Bukalov. I don't know him well enough. I want to do some reading on Bukalov at some point, but I've been focusing more on classical socionics and teaching people that.
Yeah. I tried to find Model B. I couldn't find anything on it.
That's another thing. A lot of it's in Russian, few documents on it. Wait, I thought there were 1 or 2 articles floating around on 16 types.
There was some about the dimensionality of the function. Oh yes, very complicated articles.
I like the complicated ones.
But just the thing of what is it? Experience, norms, situation, time.
Mm-hmm.
It says here functions 1 and 8 have 4 dimensions. So experience, norms.
Oh, that aspect in classical
Yeah.
socionics.
Yeah.
That is classical. Yeah. For instance, you have 2 of each that belongs to each dimension. So, for me, my 4-dimensional functions are extroverted intuition, extroverted logic. That's why I be a passionate, not passionate, a business-like communicator, according to Galenko, even though I don't have extroverted logic in my ego block. It's just
So
that it is my other
could
strongest
you,
reference.
because you know yourself better than other types, could you relate each of those dimensions to each of your own functions?
Yes.
Go on
I
then.
can. In terms of 4-3-2-1 dimensional, yes, I can. For instance, I'm more readily find myself doing extroverted logic things than introverted logic in the sense that my job is actually making my computer environment more efficient, working more efficiently. That's why I do I do my work for I do it in IT. So yeah, I have to divide connect up spreadsheets using algorithms so that it's all so the information is transferred from one spreadsheet to the other without anyone having to do any extra work.
Yeah, I like how Wiki says you call TE algorithmic logic.
Exactly, it's an application of extroverted logic. Now, I naturally end up, as much as I can, using introverted logic techniques like putting things in the categories and boxes, etc., because I enjoyed introverted logic. But the extrovert logic is actually stronger, albeit slightly. Like introvert logic is still perfectly good enough to use properly, but it's a 3-dimensional.
Do you think it's stronger because of your education and because education seems to be so TE?
I wouldn't say that education makes T stronger. It's that someone who leads with extroverted logic is more likely to embrace education.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the way they teach. The emphasis is more on T than TI.
Yes, the idea that it's piecemeal facts being shoved at you rather than a
And it is
consistent
more
more
trying to prepare you for work.
practical life skills as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I would say that extroverted logic is very, very much the dominant thing in the school. It's probably why I didn't like a lot of school. They can
Yeah, I
handle
think.
it, but it's begrudging.
Do you feel that when they teach science in school, they need to put it in a philosophical context? So that
Sorry?
they need to put it in a philosophical context so they understand the status of truth.
In the philosophical context, did you say?
Yeah.
Well, if you start a reason why you should even believe the facts they're given, if they can demonstrate that, then yes, it is more consistent. So I have a slight tendency to agree with that perspective because I'm an introverted logic user, but I don't think it would actually be that practical in terms of actually teaching the kids, as it were.
Mm.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, dimensionality. So my leading function of intuition is definitely 4th-dimensional because it's my leading function. It's control basically how I perceive the world is through this information element, so it's full developed.
I
Now
was
the
thinking specifically, how does each dimension manifest itself in each one of your functions?
4th-dimensional, where it's almost overpowering power personality, it's obvious to see in your behavior, and it's basically it's most about you can be creative and confident with it. With these, the 3rd dimension, similar, also can be creative and confident with it because it's a strong thing, but it's not so it's such an overpowering part of your personality. It's not so obvious to see. Like you wouldn't immediately know I'm an introverted logic user just by observing me. was observing a few things about me. Instead, you notice when I actually start writing, and you know I'm actually using introverted logic in the background to help my extroverted intuition. It's a lot more subtle to pick up your third dimensional information element, still look for closely and look for the right clues. Usually it's about what they're talking about rather than how they actually are presenting themselves originally. Yeah, and then the second dimensional functions, there are things which I worked at over time to become better. It's not something that comes to me naturally, rather to become adequate, I've had to put a little bit of work in.
So in your case, that would be FE and
SE.
yes, SE.
And the difference is that SE I do because society was expecting me to be a certain amount of assertive. While FE is what I've almost, with a great interest, jumped after, which is why I'm now in performing arts and acting. But I'm not doing my university degree.
It's talking about FE. I think there was once a study that most teenagers cannot read subtext, cannot really judge acting, and that the older someone gets, the better they are at judging the quality of acting. What do you think of that?
I think that's something which is to do with a collection of experience. The more experienced you are, the more you can guess accurately subtext. Because subtext is not what's explicit. If you're something explicit, you learn it as soon as you read it. But something that's implicit, like subtext, something where you need participants to say, in this last time that implicit thing was there, was in this general environment, it was here. So you can only really have to learn it over time before you can come to a conclusion of something based on. I forgot what I was talking about. That's very, very bizarre.
So if that changes, does that mean FE changes over time?
FE, wait. So I wouldn't say that reading context is something that is necessarily linked to a second dimensional function. That's just someone learning about context over time. I would say that's FE or SE or many other information elements. That's just reading between the lines.
I think they've done a test, a scientific test, where they ask people of different ages to read the emotions in someone's eyes. And older people were better at doing that than teenagers.
That's experience. That's another thing. The whole idea of an EQ test, you're naturally able to read people's emotions. I mean, sure, if you're extroverted ethics using, then you'll be focusing on that naturally a lot more. But in general, your ability in that area should increase as you get older. But the more you do it, the longer you live, the more you've done things that involve you looking at someone's face and trying to guess their emotions.
So somebody who's weak at FE can get better at FE over time.
They can bet, yes, they can. They can get better at using it. It doesn't mean they won't tire out. They can still tire out about it. But is it even actually FE, or is it just learning a technique to get around the actual usage of it?
Yeah, I'm sort of sticking to the definition of ethics of emotions.
Yes. Now, in the ethics of emotions, someone who is strong at that, it just happens naturally. It's a natural process where we go towards focusing people's emotions and how to influence them. If you are naive, for instance, with poorer extroverted ethics, you may end up having to find a logical way around that. For instance, you may have a chart in your head saying, "Oh, so that expression means that. That expression means that." And you need to find a logical way to get around the weakness in the ethics. Doesn't mean that you're using FE. It means that you're trying to use FE, and you just have to find a TI way of using FE.
Someone might be weak at FE and learn to look for the crinkles around the eyes to see if someone's having a fake smile.
Yeah. If they learn that's a correlation, then they'll start looking for that. And everyone has eyes. They can notice something like that, and they can actually come to their conclusion.
They tend to have a lot of these self-improvement books in America.
Yeah.
There's-
So it's self-improvement books. Of course, they sell.
So let's defend defend the type that seems to get criticised a lot, the ESE. Because you said you know some smart ones.
I know one. My friend Hannah is my friend Rafi as well is the smartest. I mean, but he's an idiot, but he's smart.
But could you just describe how it manifests itself, and does the FE sometimes get in the way?
The FE gets in the way of detaching thinking objectively. If you're so caught up in group emotions, then you're naturally not going to be focused on the logic. So that's where someone like Rafi would be lacking. He can not detach for a second and think about what the hell he's doing, because he's caught up in the emotions.
Have you asked your ESE friends, are they more logical when they're on their own?
That is a very good question. I know some of my friends, when they're alone, they actually they get very negative towards themselves and they do destructive things. So almost they need to be around people to be sane. But I'm not sure. That's an interesting point, because if they're extrovert ethics, they're only extroverts.
Because FE is so much concentrated on other people.
Other people, exactly.
And when they're not there,
what does an ESE and EIE do on their own?
Hey, I gotta go, guys.
Because you know how you've got FE expressing TE.
Hang on, Matthew's saying something.
Oh, hi. Oh, sorry, Matthew. Oh, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone?
So,
yeah, he's gone. He's left us.
I know.
No. First Charlie leaves us, then Matthew leaves us. What is going on today? Today's been a complete disaster.
See, I was testing an ESE and I was asking her about. She is more logical when she's on her own, because she's not catering to other people's needs.
Yeah, well, some of them are more logical when they're on their own. They're still just not very well before. They're just not focusing on their leading function, because the directive of the leading function has nothing to work on. As a result, they may actually find some time to go into their suggestive function. In the same way, when I find nothing interesting around me to pursue, I might actually decide to go to sleep on time.
Speaking of the ESE again, EJ R&D called the ESE, well, actually said ESFJ, the closet nerd. And the Russian, the machine translated translations talk about the ESE being attracted towards what they call clever cavaliers.
Oh yeah, well they're attracted to the clever because extroverted introversion, introverted logic is in their super id block. So they want that sort of mind. My mind is very sexy to the alpha sensory ethicals.
Have you read the the Vera Stratskaya profiles?
Hang on, who was that? Strativskaya?
Yeah, Vera.
Yes, I read Strativskaya.
I thought the ESE one was very funny.
As far as they go, because there's some really crap profiles written. I don't know what Golenka was thinking as writing this profile. So they're not good profiles at all. Beskova is actually pretty okay. If you have if you're typing an ethical person and give them the profile, give them a Beskova, because they like all the silly anecdotes about that type.
What do you think of Filatova?
Filatova, oh, she used Model J for her descriptions, didn't she?
Well, she's not very kind to the ESE.
Oh no, she's not very. Who wasn't she? She wasn't very kind to EIE. I think she was kinder to ESE than EIE. If you read what EIE is described as, some sort of manipulative attention seeker. I mean, sure, EIEs are manipulative, but they're not necessarily just doing it because they want attention. It's because they think that you should be feeling something. They try and make you feel something. It's not.
It says here that Filatova's self-typing is EII.
Yeah, that's true.
And But I find the ESE profile quite amusing. Talking about the ESE likes to go around
The
text.
AI in her over profile actually seems like a very, very just nice and moralistic and high standard sort of person. Doesn't really go into, I don't know, their frailness or weakness, or that when you actually do physically threaten them, they can actually end up like a squirrel backed up against the wall and become quite vicious. It's quite interesting to see an EII when they got nowhere else to turn to, and their vulnerable SE plays up and makes them possibly more aggressive than even the ESI would be.
So if we talked about the ESFJ to show the difference between MBTI and Socionics, because there appears to be a huge difference between how the two systems view that type.
Hello?
Yeah, you there?
Yeah.
So the MBTI definitions of ESFJ are, they don't seem to give they don't go into the hidden side.
Hidden what?
Like like so in Socionics, you know that the ESE has dual seeking TI.
Yes.
But in the MBTI profiles of the ESFJ, it doesn't mention that intellectual side of the ESFJ.
No, because the MBTI only talks about the first four functions. Not even the first four, like the well, no, it does talk about ESFJs using TI as a part of that function, but because it doesn't include values, all it can do is say that it's weak in the area. It doesn't talk about how it values that another person. Values doesn't really enter a BTI because you've only got four. You can't. There's nothing to distinguish it from the other four. That's what the value creep syndrome says. That's why you need to distinguish between one kind of weakness and another kind of weakness, because there are two weak functions rather than one. It's yeah, that's what the main reason why Socionics is by far the better theory.
Yeah. Would you say that ESEs have very strong unconscious willpower because they've got demonstrative SE?
They have very strong willpower, regardless of whether it's conscious or unconscious. LSEs and ESCs can be real go-getters sometimes. They go out there, they like to get their achievement done, as it were. They need to be productive and useful.
So if you could think, if once the ESE is on their own, then they've got TE, TI, NE, SE all going together.
Yeah.
But someone might interact with them face to face, and because they're in FE mode, all of those other things are in the background.
Yeah, that's it. But your leading function is in the foreground. The other things in the background working at different jobs. That's how it is. I'm getting tired. I think I'm falling asleep. This is not good. Yeah.
So have you got any more observations on the ESE?
ESE. Well, I know my friend is ESE. They can appear to be ESI because they start talking about morals a lot. However, if you look at actually how they're engaging with morals, you can see it's more an extrovert ethics attempt at getting some people around to feel something. They often say, "Oh, did you hear about this anecdote?" Take around 10 minutes to describe the anecdote. "Oh, I think that's awful. Such an awful, terrible thing. Don't you think so?" They're basically sharing the emotion now, trying to influence the group sentiment. Actual introverted ethics focuses more on the moral judgment itself than to share whatever they're feeling with the group. So the ESI will decide whether someone is a good person or a bad person, and then act accordingly to that person.
Yeah. I am looking at this sheet showing the Socion as you talk, so I can look at all the elements. So I am listening. I'm not texting.
You take I don't think I knew.
Just looking at this sheet with the what is it, the blocks.
Yes. Oh, mate, that is cool. Where'd you get that from?
That's on it's just the Wiki Socion. and you can get that grid.
It's all
So
those lovely
I'll put it up
colours.
again.
Why are
There.
there so many good colours?
Oh, I put the colours on.
You put the colours on.
Because I wanted to highlight the bits that match MBTI, the first and third rows. Ego and super id. That's it.
My God. Are you? I'm starting to think you might be an LII.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell people.
Yeah, because I know another LII who brings notes to the lectures, like really detailed, like really trying to understand what's going on. I mean, it's like a natural compulsion of LIIs and LSIs to write things up in little diagrams and boxes to apply a rule set to their information so they can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, you say you're a libertarian. Are you? Have you got libertarian economics as well?
That's what a libertarian is. It's right-wing economics and it's liberal social scale.
Well, specifically Austrian economics.
Yeah, that is right-wing economics.
Yeah. So do you follow Peter Schiff?
Hmm?
Do you follow Peter Schiff?
Not sure. I know
He's
I'm
an
laissez-faire.
Austrian economist.
I don't know specifics. I just know that I'm very, very laissez-faire.
Yeah, he is that as well.
Yeah.
So have you heard of von Mises?
No.
Well, he
I know
created
that name rings a bell.
Ludwig von Mises
Yes.
and Hayek.
I expected the Ludwig. Hmm?
Yeah, and Hayek. F.A. Hayek.
No, I don't think I know that higher.
Oh, there's a video on YouTube called Keynes versus Hayek.
Yeah.
And it was a rap battle.
Mhm.
And the Austrian economics is so much TI, it's lovely. Brilliant. Yeah, so EJR&D, he uses game theory
Yeah.
to
I like game theory.
understand libertarian, and he says that Peter Schiff uses game theory. But I did some research on praxeology, which is the Austrian method, and there's some overlap between game theory and praxeology, which is what von Mises came up with.
Praxeology?
Yeah, praxeology.
So put a practice.
Praxeology.
So say Prax, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, praxeology. Yeah, I can.
And
That's the understanding of practices.
yeah, that was in his book Human Action. It's about how people make choices, and they forgo their second best choice and their third best, and it's about opportunity cost. And it's all
always going for the first opportunity. That's happening. Game theory goes against that. Very interestingly, it says that you go for the second or third because you actually get it.
Right. There's a lot of these libertarian things on YouTube, but they never seem to get beyond YouTube.
That's what people just watch on YouTube. They don't. If you watch something, it's not like you actually write something up on it later.
Yeah, or it never gets into traditional media.
Yeah. Well, that seems to change. I think. I think YouTube's going to replace quite a bit of modern day media. Either that or a new company replace everything.
Pardon?
Either that or a completely new company walk in and change everything.
Right.
YouTube is something on the website.
So this is what I was saying about predictions, is that Austrians will make economic predictions all based on TI. So for instance, monetary policy and bubbles.
Yeah.
They'll say that if you have low rates, you will create a bubble. Now, it's a lot easier to understand if you refer to the one that happened in England in the early 90s. Because there was inflation. They fought it by raising interest rates. Loads of people's houses were repossessed. Yeah, and loads of people's houses were repossessed because they were on adjustable rate mortgages and they couldn't afford the payments. And then the banks weren't getting the money in from the mortgage payments,
Mhm.
And but in America it's that. But there's other factors in like guaranteed mortgages and all these other incentives that make it worse and worse. However, we really shouldn't be talking about this.
We just complete tangent.
Yes.
Economics. Okay. I never did. I didn't do economics A level or anything else. Specifics.
The thing is, at university they don't really teach economics. They teach Keynesianism.
Oh.
They just don't. They won't teach Austrian school, except a few colleges in America.
I'm glad I didn't do economics then.
Yeah, it really is. It's all mathematical and models. But yeah, if you
the markets fearlessly.
and I got the book, the Human Action book. It 900 pages, and there's only one page with equations on. So.
Oh, it's all about writing voluminous text rather than actually showing how you work something out.
Well, I can have a look. I've got it here. Oh, this is it. Human Action. It's 900 pages, and it's even talks about central banks. I think it was written in the 1920s. And it all goes through a lot of it is the praxeological method. If you have a look on Wikipedia, it's on there. It's not really relevant to this chat though.
Indeed.
I'm
falling asleep.
Alright, so
it's so warm in here.
So we've done dimensionality, we've done abstract. Do you want to talk about the Reining dichotomies?
Yeah. Well, I do know. Hang on. Let me just put my face go up.
I'm not going to interrupt on this one because I know nothing about it.
Hang on. Let me just do this. That didn't work. Oh, that should wake me up. Oh. Better. That's quite a bit better. Where was I? Reining. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Reining. Yes. Basically, what I talked to my friend called Peter. Peter helped write Wikisocio with Rick DeLong, and he's had the pleasure of meeting Reining.
Oh.
And apparently, these dichotomies which Reining created, which people have hyped up to be like a whole new Model R to replace Model A, it's actually, he doesn't see it that way. They're simple attempts at empirical observations which are not meant to replace or be taken as seriously as classical socionics. And I'm in complete agreement with you on this matter.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they're trying. I know there's one guy on the Personality Cafe called Sanitide. He is always trying to type people based on Reining dichotomies, and the people 16 types don't vote. They bring up left versus right as in terms of the process and result, and positive and negative, and from that the whole social progress which Glenn went into. But Reiner, whose work was needed for these further leaps by Glencoe in that area, he said it's just empirical observation. It's not an essay part of the theory. And he's perfectly willing to say that his empirical observations could be wrong. So they're not deduced directly. And he thinks that's more important. Ryan is actually meant to be the same type as me, i.e., and I myself would say that empirical observations, although you need them for a certain amount of validity, it's only if it can be deduced from the system that's so far that it is accurate within socionics. That it's not just empirical observation, but may not have anything to do with socionics.
Right.
So yeah, Rand dichotomies are highly overrated in certain parts of the socionic community now.
Oh, that's good. That means I don't have to learn about them.
Yeah, people don't know enough. I mean, some of them are useful. I mean, well, static dynamic. The way I described it in the past to some friends. It's pretty good system. I don't know exactly how much it can show up in behavior. However, it's always a static dynamic. People sometimes say you can see it in how they write. You say the same thing with post and result, or left and right. But I think that might be a bit iffy. I think it's almost looking too far into minutiae and trying to find some great pattern in the minutiae, which can also could cause judgment bias and other problems. Um, yes, another dichotomy created. Another two dichotomies created were the ones with necessary for quadras. So yes, and they seem to make quite a bit of sense.
Yeah.
So the dichotomies are quite useful,
Mm.
but there are some really iffy ones, positive and negative. I mean,
Yeah.
I know my ESE friend is a positivist, yet he is a terrible chronic depressive. I mean, he is as bad as they get. He tries to be cheery, but he's sad inside, and he calls himself a positivist. I mean, yeah, basically the way to define the positivist is someone who looks on the bright side of the world, who sees the glass as half full, sees things that are, while the
Um,
negativist sees things that are not.
um, when you talked about your friend, that made me think of the helper enneagram, because enneagrams will show people in different
Oh yeah, he was a
mental,
two.
yeah, it will show
He was
different
a two.
mental states and they're mentally unhealthy.
Yeah, he was an
And I wonder if
unhealthy.
you've looked at that and compared him to that.
Well, I think he'd often be he could be more aggressive-ish because he may have distinguished to eight two in Enneagram. He yeah, he was very much near C, very much about the group feelings and monitoring that. He's quite moralistic. He had a lot of opinions on things, usually about yes, he used to try to say, "Oh, I think it's terrible how women don't respect themselves anymore," and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. And but clearly, when his stating the mood and what his opinions, it was to try and influence my opinion, to try and get me to nod and agree, as it were.
Um, how does Socionics view the unconscious?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I mean, the way I managed to work it out was that you're consciously aware of your strengths and your failings,
Yeah.
right? So in other words, what you readily bring, which is either what must be conscious, and also you're consciously aware of the failings that which you find negative. You're weak at something that's bad, which is why you're more aware of your superego block.
Yep.
You value what you're strong at, and you fear what you're weak at. That's very
Yep.
conscious. So the
Yeah.
subconscious would be almost the opposite of that. I mean, why would you even be aware of what you don't value but you're good at? You just shunt it to one side in the back of your mind, as it were. And super id, well, yes, not as many people know what they want as I myself and other socionics do. Socionics people do. Some people know that that sort of that's the suggestive function needs to be satisfied for them to be happy in a certain way. So as a result, they're not actively looking for the suggestive function. It's far more subconscious. It's not conscious. However, they are usually conscious of what they don't like. They're often more conscious of this vulnerable function, which they're trying to avoid.
Right. I think people would be interested if you could compare the Jungian definition of the functions with Socionics element definitions.
The Jungian, do you have them written out?
Well, I don't have the Jungian ones written out. They're very long and involved.
Well, then how can we compare them if they're that
Well, I thought
long?
you might have them in your head.
I don't have it in my head. I have the sociologics in my head. I mean, I read psychological types around 2 years ago.
Ah,
It was more of a it was kind of rather interesting. But I want to say I do know that Socionics is closer to Jung than MBTI has become.
yeah. Uh,
No,
I can talk about some of the types, some of the elements in Jung.
yeah.
So he describes SI as what the outside object awakens within yourself. So it's like artistic intuition. And
What the outside object awakens within you. That is very much inverted sensing in sociology as well.
mm,
Basically, how you feel towards your physical environment.
and it's when he talks about NI, he says SI and NI are in an antagonistic relationship.
Yeah.
So as you've talked about in Model A, if someone is SI auxiliary or creative, then they are going to be NI vulnerable. And he talks about it in here that NI suppresses the subjective factor of SI. I think it's put here's a bit. Although his
NI is
intuition, although his
NI and SI are opposites in that
yeah,
one
mutually exclusive, yeah,
is the flow of time, the
yeah,
other one is almost the flows in the present.
yes, because SI is very much comfortableness and coziness and wanting to stay in one place.
Exactly, the flow in the present, basically, how do I feel towards my physical environment? How can I make my environment more comfortable? Well, the flow is like the temperature, like the heat, like well, the food tonight, etc. These sorts of things. Introvert intuition is like, no, forget all that. It's about the big picture, but where are we going in the long term?
So if I just say some bits from Jung's psychological types, because I've
Yeah.
got it there, and then you can give the Socionics equivalent of that.
Hmm.
Because, for instance, it will say, for just as external objects correspond only relatively to our perception of them, so the phenomenal forms of the inner objects are also relative products of their to us inaccessible essence and of the peculiar nature of the intuitive function.
Introvert
Well, that's a bit.
intuition, yeah.
This next bit's a bit. Oh, here's this bit's
Basically,
quite clear.
it's simplified, where Sociology does it. Introvert intuition is basically sensing where you are in the general flow of time, the flow of events from the past through to the future. Introvert intuitive type sees where they are in that relation, they are in that flux, their relation to that flux. You see?
Yeah, it's just that the way Jung does it is that he has the time element, but he has people have access to archetypes, and the archetypes represent timeless universal laws. So it's a lot more mystical.
It's not timeless. It's very, very much about time. I don't understand timeless universal law. That sounds like introverted logic.
Yeah, I know.
And that's a good example of something static, timeless. It's not meant to change over time. It just is. It's always
Well,
it's always meant to be. If it's not that, then it must be wiped out and replaced by a new system.
right. Well, I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying what Jung puts, and then you can, by comparing Socionics to that, you can maybe
Of course.
create a sharper contrast. So, for instance, it says something here about the archetype. The archetype would be, to borrow from Kant, the noumenon or the image which intuition perceives and in perceiving creates.
Yeah.
So if you explain that, because you do philosophy, if you explain that to the viewers.
Noumenon. Okay, noumenon and phenomenon. Kant basically described the idea we had these categories. They basically, the noumenon is the actual raw, unfiltered world we encounter. And the idea is that we need these categories, like things of a means of applying certain things like number, like quantity, quality, time, human concepts as well. You apply these human concepts to these unfiltered information coming in, and by applying this, then a filtered information we can actually use, we can actually see, which is one of the phenomenon. So, for instance, I have my eyes, well, if I can have my eyes, I'm so tired. I look around my bedroom, I do lots of things. Now, how do you say that if you're just receiving a luminon directly, you will not see anything, you will not be able to see anything that will make sense to you. So what you need is the category to basically be applied to this world of the luminon to make it into something which is understandable, at which point it becomes a new, at which point it becomes your new, crap, I forgot what I was talking about. That's bizarre. What was I talking about?
Yeah.
I was talking about, it basically becomes your new, what?
I've just remembered how to explain it now. It's 3 levels. You've got.
No. You got luminon, you got phenomenon.
Yeah.
Basically, by filtering information,
Yeah.
you then are able to perceive it. You can't perceive it until the information has been filtered. They're compatible with your senses, with your brain, so that you can actually understand it.
Yeah. It's
That's
just
how the categories work between the luminon and the phenomenon. In a way, one could describe the categories as being a bit like information elements themselves. The idea that you have information in your head, and then goes through these information metabolism elements to become the behavior which we see.
Right, it's just that because because Jung was influenced by Kant, he refers to transcendental idealism by saying that there's 3 levels. So for instance, there's the image, and it goes to the archetype, and then the archetype represents universal laws.
Yeah.
So those 3 levels. But Socionics will just go straight to time, whereas Jung fits that archetypes and universal laws into his whole collective unconscious theory. Whereas I think Socionics strips itself away from those mystical elements.
Yes, it does. Mostly because I don't see where the introverted logic in them is. There's why one deducible necessary from another in these parts of the theory. It's it's not very bound up together in a way that can make sense. I'm getting so tired. I'm gonna if you go much longer, I'm gonna start speaking gibberish. I'm already starting to speak gibberish, as you may have noticed.
Yeah, and I've started digressing too much. Yeah. I think I've asked all my questions. Oh, one last thing is, do you think there's a correspondence between the types and the different types of humour?
The types, sorry, the correspondence between what?
Between the personality types and types of humour.
Humour? Ah, okay, I thought you meant human. I was thinking, whoa, there's a socionics type you find in black people only? What?
No.
Okay, we're going on to dangerous territory here.
No. I'm not saying. People talk about.
Type Crunch already tried to call you racist.
No. I'm talking about. People talk of any type humour.
Any type humour. Ah, okay. Look at Family Guy.
Right.
Look at exactly. Family Guy. When you jump into some bizarre juxtaposition, there you go. That takes adventure right there. That's taking a possibility. Oh, it's like that particular example. Jump to it, see it, go back.
Apparently, INFPs and INFJs are very common in creative writing.
Yeah, because they know how they. Well, if it's the EII. They know how they feel about things. They often know what they feel is good and bad, and so they often write characters with a strong moral center, and then stick that to a narrative. Me, I don't. Because, blimey, if I were to write about characters in a book, they wouldn't have all these strange moral issues that the EII talks about. As a result, they may not actually make as good a story.
EJR&D has said that, and I've asked other people because on his duality group that ESTPs do tend to have a blunt sense of humor.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Well, it's about shock factor. It's about doing something that makes a physical impact in their environment. As a result, their humor is going to be something that's rather aggressive. Yeah. But to say that their humor is rather what's the word? Can be rather boisterous. Other types can be like that as well. I mean, my